So it's creating more choices. Thank you, Joyce, very much. Okay.
Just to build on that, actually, I think something that it took the universities perhaps to come to terms with the importance of design thinking decades, and now they're showing there's this increased interest in the idea of design thinking, and they want to learn what is working here pedagogically that could be taken up. What I want to raise there is though there's almost this kind of increased pressure to think of design thinking as a way to sort of almost find quick solutions to problems. Something that I think that's important for the school is to perhaps just let's take the the Rayner Benham Concrete Atlantis wasn't a preservation document, but it was a strong work that actually single-handedly garnered interest in what was happening there, what was unique, and then that actually kind of led to this sort of movement to come about. So I sort of I'm thinking of the school and kind of following Joyce's idea, this kind of incubation idea. How can the school kind of build this sort of construct a conceptual framework for a Buffalo school, not in the sort of school as in Frankfurt School, as in Texas Rangers. What are those kind of the unique approaches that are happening, that are present and emerging in the school, and how can that actually be kind of curated to become the powerful entity that is that we are aware of, but may not be so visible. And I actually think that there's some latent potential there that we could actually mine and sort of use to the city's average, to the city's benefit, if you do it carefully.
You got that all on one sheet? The headline is Big Problems. Poverty, Sustainability, Just City. Got it. Other faculty want to play?
You know what I'm going to say.
I can hardly wait.
So on the local level, establish the Grain Elevator District as a hub unique only to Buffalo. Notice I'm no longer asking you to buy one for our school.
Thank you.
At the global level, social justice through design research and innovation. And in general, bring delight through design.
Yes. I love it. I love it. Thank you, Beth. Look, applause is good. Don't be timid. Other people in the 80s that we haven't talked to yet. Let's go to some of our students, and I'm going to come back around to the 90s class. She's been waving at me for now.
This is not for us. This is more of like a larger school, I would say. Giving students the resources to complete their design education. So sometimes architecture school can be very expensive, and because of that, it's kind of exclusive. And one of the ways that we can diversify the profession is by allowing diverse populations to have support to complete their education. And yeah, that's what it is.
Thank you. Would you get the mic and bring the tag up? So that whole issue of at one level, we listen to all this stuff, we go to plan, and we say what kind of resources it takes to work on what kind of idea, and diversity and the cost of education is one of the places we have been over the last several years putting an increased amount of our operating money into support it. We've seen some positive move in our numbers, quite significant relative to the rest of the university, and certainly in relationship to the diversity that participates in our profession. That's both gender and race, and particularly African American. But it's still insufficient. Clearly, we have some structural things to do as well. And then I put it in the context of money there is not money somewhere else. What's the trade-off? But giving that increased emphasis is a clear and present idea. Is there another student who wants in? I think we're ready to go here.
So I put down sustainable community design build projects for the city of Buffalo. I had the pleasure to get a tour from Ed Steinfeld of the inclusive design rebuild with Habitat. And I think that to further that, and I think we have more manpower in the undergraduates that are willing to help and would love to be involved in that as well.
So now you're in the spanning between the 70s and the current student base with, I want to make things. I want to manifest them in the world.
I think, the question here is we're in a school of architecture.
And planning.
And planning.
Thank you.
I have degrees in both, but I haven't heard a lot of talk, which I kind of stimulated, and I'm assuming it's in all of this design thinking. And if you're not thinking about this in the format of design, School of Architecture should be thinking about the design of these things. So I think it's very important, at least from my perspective it is that when I say any of these things, it goes back to the built environment too. So it's, what is the School of Architecture versus what is the School of Planning? And a lot of this sounds more like from the planning perspective, which is fine with me, but what is the design thinking? Has anybody really talked about it here so far? And I haven't heard that, so.
It's an interesting thing, especially given where you were in the panel yesterday. So
I've always been in that format.
No, I understand that, but so you dropped that in, and then some of the pushback came from a kind of clear statement about design and material conditions and how that works. And I think that the relationship between those two is something that you assume, and that I think we still feel is maybe weak in terms of its full expression, perhaps here, and we should get much better at it. And I think that's part of the message that both of you are offering. Is let's be real with the material conditions and the making and design of things, and understand that is a way of knowing, which goes to I think that's a euphemism for design thinking.
I just want to make one comment.
Yeah, it's not working.
No, I just want to, I think your presentation this morning was a really good example of where planning and architecture, the deep understanding of the social and economic and political context of the institutional context of a design project makes the design process way smarter.
All I'm trying to do as I say this is don't forget that this is architecture and planning, and you should keep that in the back of your mind. I'm not pushing one too hard.
Good.
There's only about half of them like that.
Yeah, I'm here. We have this very young new graduate.
I'm sorry, but I have to leave a little early today, so I'm having lunch with Dean Cohen. And I wanted to contribute a little bit. I don't want to suggest that you should have a trade school attitude, but you are training people to go out there and they need jobs. And I can't speak for architecture, I do know Florida. And I suggest that you develop your alumni connections, track where your graduates are located in the world. This is a big world. Buffalo is going to continue to be an exporter of talent. There's no way that this region can absorb all the architects and planners you're going to be turning out over the next couple of years, and they're going to have to go out into the world. I don't know the world, I know Florida. It's a pretty big world. I mean, the expectations of Florida will be that it'll double its population in the next 30 years. It's going to go from 16 million to 30 million. I'm the leading edge of the baby boom. There's 20 years of people like me, and they will be moving south. That is the expectation. Florida is planning, they are planning hundreds of thousands of acres with 50-year plans for development. That's what's happening down there. There are jobs that will be involved and all that. I would be realistic about where your planners are needed. I mean, Buffalo is probably not the area where you're going to need a lot of planners. And have a global perspective. I mean, South Florida is one of the largest Latin American cities. I mean, basically. And it's tied economically and culturally to South America and Central America. And there's enormous amounts of back and forth, and the development of multicultural. I mean, if you can speak Spanish, I wish I'd taken it in high school and college. It's a tremendous advantage in in an area of the country that is one of the more dynamic areas. You can talk about how vulgar it is and all that stuff, but that's where people are moving. That's where they will need people who are going to have your education. So, the development of alumni relations. Where are your folks? You may have that information. I don't know, but I think that's the sort of thing. I mean, I wouldn't have moved to been able. Well, I would have moved because I had to. But the reason I'm in Florida is because the historic connection between Palm Beach and Buffalo. It's recognized. At one point, in Palm Beach County, which has grown in my tenure there from 700,000 to 1.4 million, the planner who I was hired by, these are all Buffalo planners. The executive director of the Department of Planning and Zoning and Building was from Buffalo. The school board of Palm Beach County and Florida countywide school districts was from Buffalo. The planner who was from the city of Boca Raton was from Buffalo. The planner for the town of Palm Beach was from Buffalo. Buffalo. It was a big connection culturally. Those 200,000 people that left here went someplace, and there may be something you could discover where you could track that could be useful to you. Thank you.
This imagination that they did such a good job here, they went to Florida, but I'll leave it alone. But no, it's terrific. Thank you very much. Give our best to Harold, and muchísimas gracias for you. Yeah, good, excellent. Nick.
So, I think one of the things as we reflect back on what's happened in the past is how we keep Buffalo weird.
How we keep it weird.
How we keep it weird. So there's a phrase in Austin, Texas that says keep Austin weird. And so as you become a successful city, how do you keep some of the things engaged and what have made it an attractive place for folks into the future? So a lot of these grand experiments that were shared this morning, how do we keep the flexibility in the school and keep engaging on some of those new ideas? So it's more of a thought on that. And then,
so let's pull out of that then the behavioral manifestation that would represent part of being weird is not knowing what that means. and it's sort of like, because if you already knew it, then it would probably be something you would normalize over time. But you're actually looking for some form of experimentation or some form of the kind of resistance that Eberhard represented in the early days about, architecture's obsolete. That's weird for a school of architecture to profess, but it pushed some things. Is that where you're going with this?
It's definitely where I'm going, and I think as we move into the future, thinking about what our role is in research, if we try to push and compete with some of the other schools like engineering, we lose in a lot of ways there, but if we define what the metrics are and what makes us unique and really make sure we're bringing something to that table, then we have an even expanded role, into the future and pushing that.
That's terrific. So the whole university has this cross-cut kind of attitude about adding value. Together we can do things we can't do by ourselves. And there's an open question about whether architecture and planning gets subordinated in that conversation, or with design thinking takes a lead in that conversation. And I think that's going to be a tension we're going to experience as we go forward, because we see a track to serious money and support in some of the research adventures, but it takes the PhD taking us into those funding agencies, whether it's NIH or NSF or the EPA, looking for that PhD credential that you have, but as a force, it's not part of our intellectual tradition.